is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so things begin to heat up a little bit in this episode because we start to get a lot of plot reveals in this episode and how they're going to relate to the final arc of this arc, I guess. So it starts off with a news broadcast, and how, according to how it's revealed that everybody got safely off of Prison Island before it blew up, and everybody is relieved except for Sonic, who knew that Chris was most likely fine the entire time, and had confidence that Chris was likely never in any danger. And also they go into a broadcast about how the police are still looking for Sonic, but Ella turns it off when it gets to that point, and Sonic vows to bring Chris home, pointing out that remembering how Chris saved him from drowning and he has yet to really repay the favor so much. He hasn't really had an opportunity to save Chris yet. I mean, there was the whole Chaos Emerald saga, and at the end of that Chris got kidnapped, but Chris ultimately saved himself in that situation. Let's be honest. Chris ultimately saved himself. So yeah, after watching the broadcast, Sonic realizes that the most likely place where Chris could be is Eggman's base, and surmises that Shadow most likely took him there. And with that, he leaves, despite the rest of the group pointing out that that's a really, really dumb idea, since, this entire arc is that he's kind of, wanted by the police, so going out into the public like that is probably not the smartest move. But in case everybody else begins to surmise that they should begin looking for Eggman's base as well, pointing out that they don't really know where to start and they should probably get on that. And with that, everybody who can fit boards into the X Tornado and begins looking around to try and find Eggman's base. Meanwhile, Shadow, Knuckles, in his pursuit of Rouge, actually finds Eggman's base, sort of. I'll explain in a minute, but basically he finds the egg pyramid, which is just in the middle of the desert, as you would expect, and he begins to suspect that it might be Eggman's base, although it's later revealed in a scene with Chris that that's actually not Eggman's main base. As it turns out, Shadow actually brought Chris to Eggman's main base, the Space Colony Ark, and reveals how it was built 50 years ago by Gerald Robotnik, and Chris remarks that he might be the first kid to set foot there, but Shadow remarks that he isn't, and then when Chris tries to push him harder on it, Shadow notably just clams up and goes into a flashback. And at which point we get to see a bit more about his motivations and why he is the way he is. As it turns out, Maria was a good friend of his, and for whatever reason they were attacked on the colony, and Maria sent him down to the surface alone, and much to his chagrin and protesting, and he decided that he would make everybody pay for what happened to Maria, although we never actually see what happened to her. So it's implied that she was attacked shortly after, but we never actually see that. So yeah, it's never explained. But in case, it then cuts to Rouge and Dr. Eggman, and Dr. Eggman is having Deco and Boko help him fiddle with the Eclipse Cannon, which is revealed to be on the Space Colony Ark. And he's inserting the Chaos Emeralds into the 6 Chaos Emeralds he has into it, which are going to give it the firing power, according to him, to be able to blow up an entire planet. Although Rouge and Deco and Boko both remark that it's likely that Dr. Eggman's exaggerating, although we find out later in the episode not so much the case. But I'll get to that. But in any case, after affixing the Chaos Emeralds into the Eclipse Cannon, and after spending all afternoon looking for Chris, Dr. Eggman finally has all the preparations he needs to actually start up the Eclipse Cannon, and then plays a live broadcast on all of the TV stations by hacking into them, and then announces that he's going to use the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the Earth unless they decide to join his Eggman empire. And to prove that he's not bluffing, he aims the Eclipse Cannon at the moon and blows that up instead. Or at least part of it, half the moon. It's explained in the... Okay, so I'm gonna get into this a little bit. It has been officially been explained by Sonic Team that the events of Sonic Adventure 2, where the moon was blown up, are canon. But he only blew up the back half of it, so you never actually see the fact that the moon was blown up in any of the games afterward. It happened. It physically happened. It's physically a thing that happened, but you can't actually see that from the surface of the planet of Mobius. You can't actually see that in the games. So yeah, that canonically happens, but you're never able to actually see that in the games. So yeah, the Sonic Team just came forward and explained that was a thing. But in any case, Dr. Eggman gloats, saying that they have until 24 hours to actually come up with a decision. And also he calls it, and if they don't come up with a decision by then, he will blow up the Earth. So yeah, basically they're on a time crunch. They have to stop Dr. Eggman before he blows up the Earth. So with that, and sure enough, Chris, Amy, and Cream and Cheese, who are all in the cockpit, surmise that it's most likely because Dr. Eggman had the power to do that because he stole the 6 Chaos Emeralds. And then that reminds Tails that he has the last Chaos Emerald and realizes he has a way to stop Eggman. He realizes that he has one last thing the thing he needs to actually go and stop Eggman. So with that, he goes back home to prepare the X-Tornado to go into space with Chuck's help. And that's what he proceeds to do for most of the rest of the episode. He goes back to the house. He helps Chuck modify the X-Tornado. And he even creates a replica Chaos Emerald to help fill in for the fact that they only have one. As he points out, he was able to create a replica, but its power isn't nearly as strong. So but it should be enough to get the job done. But in case, while researching, what's her name? Sophia Garcia, the reporter lady, and Mr. Stewart, they continue to do their investigation into Project Shadow and wind up in Jerome Wise's apartment. You remember him. He was the old he was the president's old assistant before he worked with Dr. Eggman and got fired. Yeah, he's destitute. He's living with an old man who is apparently important to Project Shadow, but but because the guy never no-shows, they just leave. The guy no-shows, so they just leave. But they also notice some people hide out of the corner of their eye and decide to make a haste for it because they realize that they're most likely being watched. But in case they also see as Sonic is escaping from the police and Bokun is aiding the police because they want to have Sonic caught, and Bokun is just kind of helping them, which is odd considering you'd think that if Dr. Eggman and Sonic were actually working together, you'd think they would recognize Bokun and realize that he's most likely just stirring up trouble for the sake of stirring up trouble, because Bokun is a known character in this series. He's known as he's a known character who works for Dr. Eggman. So the fact that he's helping them catch Sonic should tip them off. But it doesn't. And in any case, they begin chasing after Sonic, and he eventually loses them. At which point he runs into Knuckles, who's fighting off some government robots. And after helping defeat them, Mr. Tanaka shows up on a motorcycle and begins distracting the robots while Cream and Cheese spirit them down the nearby sewer tunnel, and Knuckles fills them in on what's going on. And as they're doing that, Knuckles explains more to Chris about what's going on, and also explains what they're doing, and that he's helping, and that he never really explains what his motivations are, although Chris can surmise that it's probably not, and that he probably shouldn't be asking so much. But it's revealed in yet another flashback that he and Maria always dreamed of going to the surface together, but for whatever reason they can't. And Shadow himself even had begun contemplating his place in the world, knowing that Gerald created him for some purpose. Told him that he had some purpose, but it was never explained what that was. And he hopes that someday he can go to the surface and figure out what that purpose was. But in case they're greeted by Rouge, and Shadow just kind of blows her off and leaves. And Rouge asks Chris what his problem is, basically. But in case with Knuckles' help, they actually track down the egg pyramid and Sonic and the others begin to go inside and begin investigating what exactly is going on with the egg pyramid and why it exists. And they eventually arrive at a door, and Topaz is there for some reason. It's never explained why she's there, but she's clearly tailing Sonic and the rest for some reason, but it's never explained why that is. But in case they arrive at the door, they realize they need a key and ask Knuckles to go find it, basically pointing out that he's kind of a treasure hunter apparently, and that this is kind of in his job description. And while Knuckles is a bit reluctant, eventually after enough prodding, he decides to go off and find the key. At which point he runs into Bokoon, who basically tells him to leave. And Knuckles just kind of blows him off. At which point Bokoon actually takes a more or less an active participant in a fight for once. He summons the Egg Golem, which if you don't know is a boss from Sonic Adventure 2. And he uses it to basically torment the group and attack them because they're technically trespassing and they need to leave. In the process, though, he accidentally opens the door that they need to go through, which means they just have to deal with the Egg Golem and Bokoon. And sure enough, Sonic and Knuckles individually try to fight the Egg Golem, but they're no match for it individually, and eventually realize that they're more than a match for it together. So they work together and take it down and knock it over. And Bokoon is thrown off the Egg Golem's head, which is where he was piloting it from, using the little remote that he has. However, he reveals that he's not quite done yet, and has the Egg Golem get back up. It's revealed that in the process it somehow managed to grab Topaz. Again, it's a little iffy as to how he managed to do that, but I digress. And threatens to crush her if they don't surrender and go away. However, Mr. Tanaka and Cream and Cheese corner Bokoon and just take the remote away from him, and then have it release Topaz, who Mr. Tanaka catches, and then chase Bokoon out of the egg pyramid, and Bokoon just kind of runs away, unable to actually fight back. So yeah, this is a big thing. Bokoon was actually an active participant in a battle for once. He controlled the Egg Golem directly throughout the fight with it, and he's only eventually defeated because he's eventually knocked off the Egg Golem's head, and they take his remote away from him and scare him off with it. So yeah, Bokoon has a bit of a character development moment. Not really, but he, at the very least, is an active participant in a fight for once, which is a big deal. So yeah, that happens. But in case, now that they've busted down the door, they go inside, at which point Tails shows up with the X-Tornado and reveals that he actually modified it to go into space. But since they actually found a shuttle in the base, and it's revealed that it's actually a launch station for a shuttle, they decide to take that instead, since it can hold a lot more passengers. And Tails realizes that he made the modifications all for nothing. And then they get into the shuttle and proceed to go to Space Colony Arc, and Sonic vows to rescue Chris. So yeah, first and foremost, this episode reveals a lot of bits about Shadow's past, namely that he and Maria used to be friends, but for whatever reason she's no longer around. They never fully explain that, but it's clear that she and Shadow were being attacked by someone, and she sacrificed herself to save Shadow. So yeah, it's clear that Shadow has a bit of a vendetta against the people who hurt her, and wants to get revenge against them, which is why he's decided to work with Dr. Eggman and help him rebuild and power the Eclipse Cannon, because he wants them to suffer the way Maria did. So he wants revenge, basically. That's what this episode establishes. He wants revenge for what happened to Maria. And also more to the point, Sonic and Knuckles basically fight against Bokun, basically. This is the first time Bokun is ever an active participant in a fight. So, yeah, it's the first time they've ever fought him directly, and he can be a menace when he has a large robot on his side. He's already been a little bit of a menace, but he's been relatively harmless. But this is the first time where they've actually had to fight, not physically fight him, but physically fight him while he was controlling a robot, and they clearly are in no mood to do it again. So yeah, Bokun can be scary if he has a robot, but fortunately he's never really ever in control of a robot, so they don't have to fight him very often, which is a good thing, I guess, because that's not really his role in the series. He's mostly just there to serve as Dr. Eggman's personal messenger and be annoying. So, yeah, the fact that he's just an active participant in the fight is largely because a way for him to be annoying and just impede the hero's progress. Because they need to introduce the Egg Golem somehow, and Bokun just happened to be the way they did that. But in any case, that's my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps you out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check this out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!